The blue-skinned woman stood in front of the biggest meeting room on Earth. Her hands shook as she looked at all the world leaders sitting before her. She had traveled so far to bring this message, and she knew most of them would not believe. Her name was Lyra, and she came from a planet called Zephyr. Her people looked like humans, but had blue skin and larger eyes. She had never been to Earth before, but she knew she had to warn them. "People of Earth," she said, her voice carried by machines that changed her words into every language. "I bring very bad news. The Enigma Empire is coming to your world with 2,000 warships." The room became very quiet. Carlos Rivera, the man who spoke for all the countries of Earth, leaned forward in his chair. His face looked worried. Around him, people from every country sat in shock. Lyra continued talking. "The Enigma Empire has taken over 47 worlds in the last 100 years. They do not show mercy. They do not take prisoners. They leave nothing alive behind them. My people barely escaped from them 5 years ago." A woman from America named Helen Brooks stood up. She was in charge of her country's army. "What do you think we should do?" "You must leave," Lyra said right away. "Our ships can take maybe 10 million of your people to safety. I know it is hard to choose who lives and who dies, but it is better than everyone dying." The room exploded with noise as everyone started talking at once. The American president, Jake Morrison, whispered quickly to the people who worked for him. The leader of Britain, Lucy Chun, wrote notes as fast as she could. A general named Peter Hayes stood up. He was in charge of America's military. "How much time do we have?" 6 months, maybe 7, Lyra answered. "Their scout ships are ready near your outer planets. Are you sure we cannot fight them?" General Hayes asked. Lyra's face showed pity for the humans. "General, I have seen what they can do. The Drakmor people had shields that could stop the heat from stars. The Keth had weapons that could break apart anything they touched. The Iranian Collective had over 5,000 ships. All of them were beaten in just a few days." Carlos Rivera stood up slowly. The weight of his decision pressed down on him. "We thank you for the warning, Lyra, and for offering to save some of our people. But humans have never been good at running away from fights." "This is not about being proud," Lyra begged. "This is about staying alive. The Enigma Empire has weapons that can break planets in half. They have shields that can absorb nuclear bombs. They have never fought humans," General Hayes said quietly. Over the next few weeks, Lyra worked hard to convince world leaders to start moving people off Earth. But humanity made its choice. It began building huge defense platforms in space. Around Earth, every army on the planet worked together for the first time ever. Scientists worked day and night making new weapons. Dr. Kevin Walsh ran NASA's new department for studying alien technology. He spent many nights without sleep studying the information Lyra had given them about how other worlds had tried to fight the Enigma Empire. "Their fighting methods are all wrong," he told his partner Dr. Nina Foster. "Every species the Enigma fought the same way. They were predictable and followed old rules about how to fight wars." "What are you thinking?" Dr. Foster asked. "I am thinking that humans do not have old rules when it comes to fighting aliens," Kevin said with a dark smile. "We make up new ways to fight as we go." Meanwhile, Admiral Lisa Grant worked with military leaders from all over the world. They created something called the Earth Defense Force. Countries that had been enemies just months before were now working together. "The Enigma Empire expects us to fight like every other species they have conquered," she told her staff. "They expect us to fight with honor, use predictable plans, and think in normal ways." A colonel named Ryan Murphy raised his hand. "So we give them the opposite." "Exactly," Admiral Grant nodded. "We give them chaos." As Earth got ready for war, Lyra watched with growing amazement and fear. These humans were not just refusing to run away. They were preparing to fight an empire that had never lost a battle. "You do not understand," she told Carlos Rivera in their last meeting. "The Enigma Empire does not just take over worlds. They study them first. They know about your armies, your cities, and your technology. They have been watching Earth for many years." "Good," Rivera replied calmly. "Then they know exactly what they are getting into." But Lyra shook her head. "No, Carlos Rivera. I think they do not know at all." During these months, strange things began happening all over Earth's solar system. What looked like normal mining operations on asteroids were actually being turned into hidden weapon bases. Communication satellites were being rebuilt with secret weapons inside them. Research stations on moons were actually being turned into military command centers. The humans were not just preparing to fight. They were preparing to fight in ways that no other species had ever tried before. They were hiding weapons everywhere, training soldiers in new ways, and planning battles that broke every rule of space. Warfare. Dr. Walsh worked with teams of scientists to understand Enigma technology. They found weaknesses that other species had never thought to look for. They discovered that NIGMA ships all used the same frequency for their sensors, which meant humans could hide from them if they knew the right way. General Hayes met with military leaders from Russia, China, India, and every other country. They shared secrets that had been kept hidden for decades. They combined their best weapons and their smartest people into one giant army. "The Enigma Empire thinks they know everything about us," he told the group. "They think we are weak because we fight each other. But they do not understand that fighting each other has made us very good at war." As the 6 months passed, Earth changed. Factories that used to make cars now made spaceships. Scientists who used to study medicine now studied how to break alien technology. Farmers learned how to grow food in underground bunkers in case the surface of the planet became too dangerous. But most importantly, humanity learned to work together. People who had never agreed on anything before now had one goal: protect Earth from the NIGMA Empire. Lyra stayed on Earth during these months, trying to understand what made humans different from every other species she had known. She watched them work 18 hours a day, preparing for a war they might not win. She saw them share their best ideas with former enemies. She witnessed them refuse to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. On the last day before the NIGMA Empire was expected to arrive, Lyra met with Admiral Grant one final time. "I have seen many species prepare for war," she said, "but I have never seen anything like this. You are either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish." Admiral Grant smiled. "Maybe we are both, but that is what makes us human." The next morning, sensors all across Earth's solar system detected the arrival of 2,000 Enigma warships. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and nobody knew what would happen next. Supreme Commander Zex stood on the control deck of his giant warship called the Dominator. He looked like a large lizard that walked on 2 legs, with sharp teeth and angry yellow eyes. His clawed hands drummed on the control panel as he read reports about the humans on Earth. "This is what made us wait for 3 months?" he hissed, his snake-like tongue flicking between his teeth. "A species that still uses old rocket ships and nuclear bombs?" His second-in-command, Fleet Admiral Mordick, moved nervously. "Supreme Commander, our spy reports show some strange things. The humans have joined all their armies together and built defense platforms very quickly." "It does not matter," Zex snapped. "Their strongest weapons are simple fusion bombs. Our personal armor can survive such attacks. Their fastest ships move much slower than light speed. Their people all live on one world with almost no space colonies." He waved his clawed hand at the holographic display It showed Earth's solar system. Look at this weak system. One world where they can live, a few mining operations on dead rocks, and some basic communication satellites. The Drakmor had protected 12 worlds. The Keth Collective controlled an entire cloud of gas and stars. And this is what the Galactic Council fears? An intelligence officer named Vexara stepped forward carefully. Sir, there are some odd things about how the humans are acting. Unlike other species we have conquered, they have shown no interest in talking peace or surrendering. They have also stopped all communications between their planets, as if they are preparing for ... Preparing to die, Zexai interrupted. Good. It will make this conquest quick. The Supreme Commander turned on the communication system that reached all ships in his fleet. 2,000 NIGMA warships floated in space like a metal storm cloud. Each ship had weapons that had turned entire civilizations into space dust. Warriors of the Nigma Empire. His voice boomed across the fleet. In front of us is the 48th world that will fall under our rule. The humans who live on this rock call it Earth. They are a young species, barely able to travel between planets. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum destroyers. Across the fleet, NIGM warriors roared their approval. In the lower parts of the ships, soldiers checked their personal force fields and charged their disintegration rifles. Victory seemed certain. Our intelligence tells us they have about 8 billion people scattered across their single world, Zexai continued. Their military uses old bullet weapons and simple explosive devices. They have no unified command and no experience with space warfare. What the Supreme Commander did not mention was the complete psychological profile that NIGMA scouts had written about humans. The reports described humans as unusually able to adapt, likely to use unpredictable fighting methods, and having an abnormal willingness to die for abstract ideas like freedom and independence. But Zexai had not bothered to read these complete reports. The Nigma Empire's standard way of conquering had never failed. First, they would destroy orbital installations and communication networks. Second, they would kill military leadership with targeted strikes. Third, they would demand surrender from the remaining population. Fourth, if surrender was refused, they would show their overwhelming power by destroying a major city. Finally, they would accept the inevitable giving up and begin the process of adding the new world to their empire. Begin Phase 1, Zexai commanded, but as the Nigma fleet moved toward Earth's outer defensive area, Admiral Grant sat in the newly built command center buried deep under the Colorado mountains. Around her, hundreds of screens showed real-time information from across the solar system. An IGMA fleet is approaching Neptune's orbit, reported Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner. 2,000 ships, just as Lyra predicted. Any attempts to communicate? Admiral Grant asked. No, Admiral. Complete radio silence. General Hayes, present through a secure video link from the Pentagon, leaned into his camera. Just like every other species they have conquered. They do not talk because they do not expect resistance. Then let us give them something unexpected. Admiral Grant replied. She opened a channel to all Earth Defense Force units. This is Admiral Grant to all EDF forces. Operation Beehive is now active. Repeat, Operation Beehive is active. Across Earth's solar system, what appeared to be routine mining operations, communication satellites, and research stations suddenly came alive. Hidden weapon systems powered. Up, concealed fighters emerged from camouflage bays carved into asteroids. Automated defense drones, disguised as space debris, began moving into attack positions. Supreme Commander Zexai watched his tactical display with growing confusion as thousands of new contacts appeared on his sensors. What is this? He demanded. Our intelligence reported minimal space-based infrastructure. Sir, his sensor operator reported with uncertainty. I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. It appears the humans have been hiding things. Impossible. HFY snarled. No species has ever attempted such deception on this scale. Begin bombardment of their orbital platforms immediately. Enigma Empire had spent decades perfecting their conquest methods. They had detailed procedures for every situation they had ever encountered. Their weapons were designed to overwhelm any defensive system. Their tactics had never failed against any species they had fought. But what they did not understand was that humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. Every trick, every deception, every desperate strategy that had ever been used in human warfare was now being turned against the Enigma Empire. Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent months studying captured Enigma technology from their scout ships. He had discovered something important. All NIGMA ships used the same frequencies for their sensors and communications. This meant that if humans could jam or trick those frequencies, they could make entire fleets blind and deaf. Activate the interference generators, he ordered from his command post on the moon. Across the solar system, hidden transmitters began broadcasting signals that confused Enigma sensors. What had appeared to be 2,000 enemy ships suddenly looked like 20,000 on their displays. Colonel Ryan Murphy commanded a hidden base built inside a large asteroid near Mars. His job was to coordinate the human response to the NIGMA. Attack. All units, remember the plan. We are not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We are trying to confuse them and make them think we are more powerful than we really are. The human strategy was something no other species had ever tried. Instead of meeting the NIGMA Empire in direct battle, they were going to make the aliens fight shadows, chase false targets, and waste their energy on empty space. Captain Jake Reynolds piloted one of the first human ships to engage the Enigma fleet. His ship, called the Hornet, had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid and covered with materials that absorbed Enigma sensor beams. Hornet Squadron, this is Reynolds, he spoke into his radio. Target their shield generators. Remember, we do not need to destroy them. We just need to confuse them. As NIGMA weapons charged and prepared to fire on Earth's visible defenses, Admiral Grant smiled grimly in her command bunker. The aliens were doing exactly what humans had predicted they would do. They were following their standard procedures, which meant humans knew exactly what they would do next. All units, weapons free, she commanded. Show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. The first Enigma plasma blasts struck what appeared to be Earth's orbital defense platforms. The platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their debris falling toward Earth like burning stars. On his command deck, Supreme Commander HFY watched the destruction with satisfaction. But then something happened that had never occurred. In 47 previous conquests, instead of desperate surrender messages from the planet below, his communications officer reported something unprecedented. Sir, I am receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Already? HFY was surprised. Most species took hours to organize a response after their orbital defenses were destroyed. Put it through. Admiral Grant's image appeared on the main screen. Her expression was calm and professional. Behind her, the Earth Defense Force Command Center hummed with quiet activity. Supreme Commander, she began, I am Admiral Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Force. I believe you have made a tactical error. The bridge of the Dominator fell silent. In 47 previous conquests, no enemy commander had ever claimed that the Enigma Empire had made an error. Human, HFY replied. With amusement, your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your planet is defenseless. Surrender now, and your death will be swift. Actually, Admiral Grant continued, those were not our orbital defenses. Those were fake targets. Allow me to demonstrate our actual capabilities. Before HFY could respond, his tactical officer screamed a warning. Supreme Commander, multiple contacts closing from all directions. The holographic display around the NIGM-A flagship suddenly filled with thousands of red dots. The battle for Earth had begun, and nothing was going according to the NIGM-A Empire's plans. The fake defense platforms exploded in bright flashes of light as Nigma plasma weapons hit them. Supreme Commander HFY watched the destruction and expected to see the usual pattern of shocked enemy communications and desperate offers to surrender. Instead, his communications officer reported something that had never happened before. Sir, I am receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Already? HFY was surprised. Most species took hours to organize a response after their orbital defenses were destroyed. Put it through. Admiral Grant's image appeared on the main screen. Her face was calm and professional. Behind her, the Earth Defense Force Command Center worked quietly and efficiently. Supreme Commander, she began, I am Admiral Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Force. I believe you have made a tactical error. The bridge of the Dominator became completely silent. In 47 previous conquests, no enemy commander had ever told the Nigma Empire that they had made a mistake. Human, HFY replied with amusement, your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your planet has no protection. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Actually, Admiral Grant continued, those were not our orbital defenses. Those were decoys. Let me show you our real capabilities. Before HFY could respond, his tactical officer screamed a warning. Supreme Commander. Multiple contacts approaching from all directions. The holographic display around the NIGM-A flagship suddenly filled with thousands of red dots. From behind asteroids, from inside gas clouds, from the surfaces of moons, human ships poured into the battle space. But these were not the crude chemical rockets that Nigma intelligence had predicted. Impossible, whispered Fleet Admiral Mordek. Our sensors detected nothing. Stealth technology, Admiral Grant explained pleasantly, still on the screen. We have had decades to study your scanner frequencies from the probe ships you have been sending into our system. Did you really think we did not notice? Captain Jake Reynolds commanded one of the first human attack ships to engage the Nigma fleet. His ship, the Hornet, had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid and covered with materials designed specifically to avoid NIGM-A detection systems. Hornet Squadron, this is Reynolds. He spoke into his communications device. Target there. Shield generators. Remember, we do not need to destroy them. We just need to confuse them. The human attack plan violated every principle of space warfare that the Nigma Empire understood. Instead of engaging in honorable ship-to-ship combat, human vessels swarmed like insects around the much larger Nigma cruisers. They fired unconventional weapons, electromagnetic pulse bombs, gravity mines, and something the NIGM-A had never encountered before. Computer viruses transmitted through their own communication systems. Sir, the Dominator security chief reported. In panic, our computer systems are being infiltrated. The humans are somehow sending destructive code through our tactical networks. Dr. Kevin Walsh, monitoring the battle from a hidden command post on the moon, smiled as he watched his cyber warfare programs tear through Nigmia computer systems. It turns out, he told his team, when you have spent decades dealing with human hackers, alien computer security looks pretty simple. But the humans' most devastating tactic was yet to come. Commander Sarah Mitchell piloted her fighter craft, called Wasp, directly toward the NIGM-A flagship's bridge. Her ship was smaller than an Enigma escape pod, too tiny to be considered a threat by their automated defense systems. Mitchell, "You are flying straight into their command section," Captain Reynolds warned over the radio. "Their hull armor will stop anything you can carry." "I am not trying to damage their hull," Sarah replied calmly. "I am delivering a message." She fired a single projectile, not an explosive or energy weapon, but a simple metal cylinder, directly at the Dominator's main viewing window. The cylinder passed harmlessly through the NIGMA shields, which were designed to stop energy weapons and large projectiles, not tiny pieces of metal traveling at moderate speeds. The cylinder struck the viewing window and split open, releasing thousands of tiny metallic fragments that spread across the transparent surface like a spider web. Each fragment contained a microtransmitter broadcasting a simple message in the NIGMA language. "You missed something." Supreme Commander Zexhai watched in confusion as his flagship's main viewer became covered by what appeared to be metallic dust. Then the implications hit him like a physical blow. "If they can put harmless metal dust on our viewing window," he said slowly, "they can put harmful substances anywhere on our ship." As if summoned by his words, secondary explosions began rippling across the NIGMA fleet. Human infiltration teams, using the same stealth technology that had hidden their fleet, had been placing charges on NIGMA ships for hours. Not enough explosives to destroy the vessels, but enough to disable weapon systems, life support, and navigation. "This is impossible," Zexhai roared. "No species fights this way. Where is their honor? Where are their battle lines? Where is their command structure?" Colonel Murphy's voice crackled over the Nigma communication frequency, which human technicians had effortlessly hacked. "Supreme Commander, you are thinking like every other species you have conquered. You expect us to fight fairly, follow rules, and behave predictably. But humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We have learned that when your survival is at stake, there are no rules except winning." The Nigma fleet, designed for conventional space warfare against honorable opponents, found itself helpless against an enemy that treated war like a puzzle to be solved, rather than a ritual to be observed. Human ships moved in ways that made no sense to Nigma tacticians. They attacked from impossible angles, used weapons that served no obvious military purpose, and coordinated their movements without any apparent command structure. What the NIGMA did not understand was that human military doctrine had been shaped by thousands of years of fighting other humans. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations, and technological innovation were not alien concepts to humanity. They were fundamental parts of how humans approached conflict. Sergeant Ben Carter led a team of human Marines who had infiltrated a NIGMA cruiser using a captured supply ship. The aliens' internal security was non-existent because no species had ever been crazy enough to board an enemy vessel in the middle of a battle. "Target the reactor control room," Carter whispered into his communication device. "We are not trying to destroy the ship, just disable it long enough for our fleet to advance." Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Walsh was implementing an even more devastating strategy from his lunar command post. "Every Nigma ship we have captured has the same weakness," he explained to his team. "Their computer systems are networked for efficiency. What affects one ship affects them all." "You mean we can hack their entire fleet?" asked Dr. Nina Foster. "Better," Kevin replied with a predatory smile. "We can make them hack themselves." A virus he had developed was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of attacking NIGMI systems directly, it convinced the computers that routine maintenance procedures were actually emergency protocols. Across the alien fleet, ships began shutting down weapon systems for scheduled cleaning, launching escape pods for mandatory drills, and sending false reports about reactor malfunctions. Supreme Commander Zexhai watched his fleet fall apart from within and felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. "Our ships are receiving contradictory orders. The computer systems show everything functioning normally, but our crews are reporting system failures across the fleet. How is this possible? The humans are not just fighting us," Admiral Mordek realized with growing horror. "They are turning our own technology against us. They have made our strengths into weaknesses." The realization hit Zex-Hi like a physical blow. The NIGMA, Empire's advanced technology, unified command structure, and standardized procedures, everything that had made them unstoppable, had become vulnerabilities when facing an enemy that refused to fight conventionally. Captain Reynolds led his squadron in a daring attack on the NIGMA command ship. Instead of trying to destroy it with conventional weapons, the human ships surrounded it and began broadcasting conflicting signals on every frequency the aliens used for communication. "This is Reynolds to all units," he announced over the radio. "Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to survive an unfair one." The battle raged for hours, but it was unlike any conflict in galactic history. The NIGMA Empire, with their superior technology and overwhelming numbers, found themselves losing to an enemy that refused to follow any recognizable pattern of warfare. "Sir," his communications officer announced to Zex-Hi, "I am receiving." Another transmission from the human admiral. Admiral Grant appeared on the main screen again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood military leaders from every major human nation, their faces grim but determined. "Supreme Commander," she began, "it is time we discussed terms." "Terms?" Zex-Hi's voice cracked slightly. "The Nigma Empire does not negotiate with inferior species." "I am afraid you misunderstand," Admiral Grant replied calmly. "We are not offering to negotiate our surrender. We are offering you the chance to surrender to us." The bridge of the Dominator fell silent. In 47 previous conquests, no enemy had ever off. 3 weeks had passed since what should have been a simple conquest began. Supreme Commander Zex-Hi stared at casualty reports that made no sense. The Nigma Empire had lost 600 ships, not to superior firepower, but to tactics so unusual. They seemed like madness. "Explain to me again," he said to his intelligence officer, "how a species with chemical rockets destroyed our plasma frigates." Vexara shifted nervously. "Sir, they have turned everything into a weapon. Yesterday, they crashed an asteroid into our supply depot. Not a missile, an actual asteroid they somehow moved into our path. Our shields were not designed to stop. Celestial bodies. And the day before?" Zex-Hi's voice carried deadly calm. "They hacked our communication system and convinced 3 of our cruisers that they were under attack by each other. The ships destroyed themselves in friendly fire before we could correct the error." General Hayes, coordinating Earth's defense from his Pentagon command center, reviewed the latest battle reports with grim satisfaction. Around him, military leaders from every nation on Earth worked together with unprecedented cooperation. "The Nigma Empire's fundamental weakness," he explained to a gathering of world leaders, "is that they have become predictable through success. They have developed standard procedures for conquest because those procedures always worked before." President Morrison nodded. "And humans?" "Humans adapt," General Hayes replied simply. "We have been fighting unconventional warfare for centuries. Guerrilla tactics, asymmetric combat, psychological operations. These are not alien concepts to U.S. They are normal Tuesday for us." In space, Captain Reynolds led his squadron in another impossible mission. The Nigma had established what they believed was an unbeatable defensive position around Jupiter, using the planet's gravity and radiation field as natural shields. "Hornet Squadron, prepare for Operation Trojan Horse," Reynolds announced. "Remember, they expect us to attack their front lines. so we are going to attack their supply chain instead. The human plan was bold, even by their standards. Using captured Negma identification codes, a single human ship disguised as a supply vessel approached the alien defensive line. Lieutenant Amy Foster piloted the disguised craft, her heart pounding as NIGM as sensors swept over her vessel. "This is Transport 77 Alpha requesting docking permission," she transmitted in perfect NIGMA language. Thanks to the alien language experts Earth had been training since first contact. "Permission granted," came the reply. "Proceed to Bay 14. What the Nigma did not know was that Amy's supply ship contained 24 human Marines in powered armor, along with enough explosives to disable their command vessel from the inside. Sergeant Ben Carter led the Marine team as they moved through the NIGMA ship's corridors. The aliens' internal security was non-existent. After all, who would be crazy enough to board an enemy vessel in the middle of a battle? "Target the reactor control room," Carter whispered into his communication device. "We are not trying to destroy the ship, just disable it long enough for the fleet to advance." But as the Marines carried out their mission, Dr. Kevin Walsh was implementing an even more devastating strategy from his lunar command post. "Every Nigma ship we have captured has the same weakness," he explained to his team. "Their computer systems are networked for efficiency. What affects one ship affects them all." "You mean we can hack their entire fleet?" asked Dr. Nina Foster. "Better," Kevin replied with a dangerous smile. "We can make them hack themselves." The virus he had developed was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of attacking NIGMA systems directly, it convinced their computers that routine maintenance procedures were actually emergency protocols. Across the alien fleet, ships began shutting down weapon systems for scheduled cleaning, launching escape pods for mandatory drills, and sending false reports about reactor malfunctions. The psychological warfare was perhaps even more effective than the physical attacks. Human ships would suddenly appear next to NIGMA vessels, broadcast a simple message like, "Hello, neighbor," and then disappear before the aliens could respond. NIGME crews began reporting that they were being watched constantly, even when their sensors showed empty space. Captain Sarah Mitchell had developed a particularly effective tactic. She would pilot her small fighter craft right up to NIGMA ships and perform elaborate aerobatic maneuvers around their hulls, always staying just out of range of their weapons. The message was clear. Humans could go wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted, and there was nothing the Nigma could do to stop them. "The psychological impact is incredible," Dr. Walsh reported to Admiral Grant. "Their crews are requesting transfers, reporting sick, and some ships have had actual mutinies. They are more afraid of what we might do and what we are actually doing." Supreme Commander Zexhai watched his fleet fall apart from within and felt something he had not experienced in decades: doubt. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic, "our ships are receiving contradictory orders. The computer systems show everything functioning normally, but our crews are reporting system failures across the fleet. How is this possible? The humans are not just fighting us." Admiral Mordick realized with growing horror. "They are turning our own technology against us. They have made our strengths into weaknesses." The realization hit Zexhai like a physical blow. The NIGMA Empire's advanced technology, unified command structure, and standardized procedures, everything that had made them unstoppable, had become vulnerabilities when facing an enemy that refused to fight conventionally. But the humans were not finished. Colonel Murphy had been studying Nigma fleet movements and noticed something important. They always formed the same defensive patterns, used the same communication protocols, and responded to threats in the same predictable ways. "They are like a computer program," he explained to his staff. "If we can figure out their programming, We can predict what they will do next. The breakthrough came when human cryptographers cracked the NIGMA military communication codes. Suddenly, Earth forces could hear every order, every status report, and every tactical discussion in the alien fleet. "This is incredible," reported Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner from the Earth Defense Force Command Center. "We know what they are going to do before they do it." Admiral Grant smiled grimly. "Then let us use that knowledge." The next phase of the human strategy was the most audacious yet. Using their knowledge of NIGMA communication protocols, human technicians began sending false orders to alien ships. Nigma vessels found themselves being ordered to attack their own allies, retreat when they should advance, and hold position. In the middle of human ambushes. "Sir," Admiral Mordick reported desperately, "we are losing ships faster than our weapons can target the enemy. Their vessels are too small, too fast, and they are attacking from impossible angles." Supreme Commander Zexhai realized, with growing horror, that the Nigma Empire had encountered something completely outside their experience, a species that was better at war than they were. The Nigma Empire had conquered 47 worlds by being stronger, faster, and more technologically advanced than their enemies. They had never faced an opponent that was more creative, more adaptable, and more willing to break the rules of conventional warfare. "Signal the fleet," he commanded. "Full retreat to the outer system. We need time to analyze these tactics and develop countermeasures." But Admiral Grant's image appeared on his screen one final time. "I am afraid it is too late for that, Supreme Commander. You see, while you were studying our old probe data and making assumptions about human capabilities, we were studying you, and we learned something very interesting about the Nigma Empire." "What?" Zexhai demanded. "You have never lost a battle," Admiral Grant replied, "which means you have never learned how to recover from one." As the NIGMA fleet tried to retreat, they discovered that human forces had surrounded them completely. Stealth ships that had been hiding throughout the solar system suddenly appeared, blocking every escape route. But the humans were not interested in destroying the NIGMA fleet entirely. Instead, they wanted to send a message that would be heard throughout the galaxy. "This is Admiral Grant to all NIGMA vessels." Her voice broadcasted on every alien communication frequency. "You have two choices. Surrender now and be treated according to the laws of war, or continue fighting and face complete destruction." The response from the NIGMA fleet was silence. For the first time in their history, NIGMA commanders did not know what to do. "Sir," his communications officer reported to Zexhai, 17 ships have requested permission to surrender. 23 more have powered down their weapons and are awaiting orders." Supreme Commander Zexhai looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For the first time in their lives, NIGMA warriors looked uncertain and afraid. The humans had done something that no other species in the galaxy had ever accomplished. They had not just defeated the NIGMA Empire in battle, they had broken their will to fight. "What are your orders, Supreme Commander?" Admiral Mordick asked quietly. Zexhai stared at the tactical display, showing his scattered, demoralized fleet, surrounded by human forces. The empire that had never known defeat was about to learn what surrender felt like. "Open a channel to the human admiral," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Grant appeared on the 6 months after the NIGMA Empire's first attack on Earth. Supreme Commander Zexhai knelt in chains aboard the human vessel Defiance. Around him, the remnants of his once mighty fleet drifted as broken hulks or flew under human control with mixed crews of surrendered Nigma personnel and human commanders. Admiral Grant stood before him, her expression neither happy nor cruel, but carrying the weight of complete victory. "The terms are simple," she stated, reading from a digital tablet. "Complete withdrawal from all conquered territories, dismantling of your military infrastructure, and payments to the civilizations you have enslaved. Impossible, Zexhai hissed, though his voice lacked its former authority. The Nigma Empire spans dozens of star systems. Our economy depends on tribute from conquered worlds. Then I suggest you learn to build your economy on something other than slavery, Admiral Grant replied coldly. Because as of today, the Nigma Empire no longer exists as a military power. General Hayes appeared on the communication screen from Earth. Supreme Commander, perhaps you would like to see what is happening in your former territory. The main display showed feeds from across Nigma space. On Drakmor Prime, the reptilian natives had risen up and reclaimed their homeworld, using weapon caches supplied by human infiltration teams. In the Kef Nebula, the insectoid collective had rebuilt their fleet with human-designed ships that their former conquerors could not detect or counter. How? Zexhai demanded. How did you coordinate resistance across dozens of worlds? Colonel Murphy, now commanding the human occupation forces in Nigma space, answered from the bridge of a captured alien dreadnought. The same way we coordinated Earth's defense. We listened, we learned, and we adapted. While your empire was built on fear and oppression, we built alliances based on mutual benefit. Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent the past months traveling to former Nigma territories, not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. His teams had shared human technology and tactics with every species that had suffered under alien rule. The fascinating thing about your empire, he explained to Zexhai through video link, is that you never bothered to learn about the cultures you conquered. You just imposed your will and moved on. But humans have always been curious about other species. And that curiosity, added Dr. Nina Foster from her new research station on the former Nigma, a capital world, taught us that every species you conquered had unique strengths you ignored. The Drakmor are natural engineers with human coordination. They have built defensive systems that make your old shields look like paper. The Kef understand quantum mechanics in ways that let them build impossible weapons. President Morrison's image joined the communication from Earth. What you are seeing, Supreme Commander, is the end of an empire built on the assumption that might makes right. But humans learned long ago that sustainable power comes from cooperation, not domination. The scope of the Nigma Empire's collapse became clear over the following weeks. Their military had been built around a rigid hierarchy that fell apart when their command structure was compromised. Their economy had depended on tribute from conquered worlds, tribute that stopped flowing the moment those worlds realized their oppressors were vulnerable. Sir, Admiral Mordique reported from his own detention cell. Our intelligence networks are reporting rebellions in every sector. Our governors are either dead, captured, or have fled to neutral space. And our allies? Zexhai asked desperately. We do not have allies, Mordique replied bitterly. We have subjects, and subjects do not remain loyal when they have a choice. But the most shocking development came when human ships began arriving in former Nigma territories, not as conquerors, but as peacekeepers and aid workers. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed infrastructure. Human doctors provided medical care to species that had been neglected under Nigma rule. Human teachers shared knowledge freely with anyone who wanted to learn. Ambassador Lyra of the Zephyrians arrived at Earth 6 months after the Nigma defeat, leading a delegation from the Galactic Council. She found a world transformed not by conquest, but by purpose. Admiral Grant, she said during their meeting in the rebuilt UN headquarters, the Council is prepared to offer Earth full membership and significant territorial concessions in recognition of your victory over the Nigma Empire. We appreciate the offer, Admiral Grant replied, but Earth is not interested in building an empire. We are interested in building something better. Which is General Hayes answered from his position at the conference table. A true galactic community. The NIGMA Empire, as it was built on fear and exploitation. Most galactic governments seem to be built on isolation and self-interest. Humans propose something different. The proposal that emerged from the negotiations was unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of claiming Nigma territory for themselves, humans had helped each conquered species reclaim their independence. Instead of demanding tribute, Earth had shared technology and knowledge freely. The Human Defense Compact, President Morrison explained to the assembled galactic representatives, is open to any civilization that agrees to mutual defense and peaceful cooperation. We do not want subjects or vassals. We want partners. The transformation of the galaxy happened faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been isolated for centuries began communicating with each other. Technologies that had been hoarded by individual civilizations were shared openly. Trade networks that had been disrupted by NIGMA expansion were rebuilt on principles of mutual benefit. Captain Reynolds, now commanding the exploration vessel New Horizons, summed up humanity's new role in the galaxy during his final report. The Nigma Empire made the same mistake that every failed conqueror in human history has made. They assumed that because they were stronger, they were superior. They forgot that strength without wisdom, power without purpose, and conquest without cooperation always lead to the same end, destruction. Dr. Walsh established research stations throughout the former NIGMA territory, but these were not military outposts. They were centers of learning where species could share knowledge and develop new technologies together. The most important thing we have learned, he reported to Earth, is that diversity makes us stronger. Every species has unique ways of solving problems. When we combine human adaptability with Drakmore engineering and Keth quantum theory, we can accomplish things that none of us could achieve alone. Supreme Commander Zex High, serving his sentence on a human-administered rehabilitation facility, watched news reports of former NIGMA worlds prospering under their regained freedom. For the first time in his life, he began to understand what he had lost. The humans could have built an empire greater than ours, he admitted to his guard, Sergeant Carter, the same Marine who had infiltrated his flagship months earlier. Sure, Carter replied, not unkindly, but we learned something you never did. Empires fall, communities endure. The change in galactic politics was dramatic. Species that had lived in fear of the NIGMA Empire for generations suddenly found themselves free to pursue their own destinies. Former enemies became allies. Isolated civilizations joined the growing network of cooperative worlds. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed warfare itself. The human victory had demonstrated that military might was not the only path to power. Cooperation, creativity, and mutual respect could accomplish more than force ever could. Lieutenant Amy Foster, now an ambassador to the Drakmore homeworld, sent regular reports back to Earth about the progress being made. They are teaching us things about engineering that we never imagined, she wrote. In return, we are sharing our knowledge of agriculture and medicine. Both species are becoming stronger. The Nigma Empire was gone, not because it had been destroyed, but because it had been replaced by something it could never understand or counter. A civilization that grew stronger by making others stronger. That found security in cooperation rather than domination, and that measured success not by what it could take, but by what it could give. Lyra, the Zephyrian ambassador, who had originally warned Earth about the NIGMA threat, established a permanent embassy on Earth. During the dedication ceremony, she spoke about the transformation she had witnessed. When I first came to Earth, she said, I thought I was trying to save a primitive species from extinction. Instead, I discovered that I was witnessing the birth of a new kind of galactic civilization. Admiral Grant, now serving as Earth's first Galactic Affairs Coordinator, smiled as she watched species from across the galaxy working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. The Nigma Empire thought they were conquering the galaxy, she reflected. Instead, they were uniting it against them. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from helping them become your friends. In the end, the humans had done exactly what they had promised from the beginning. They had shown the galaxy what happened when someone threatened their home. But instead of becoming the next galactic empire, they had become something far more dangerous to tyrants and conquerors. They had become the species that taught others how to be freed that the Nigma Empire had ignored humanity's warning about Earth's potential. They had paid the ultimate price for that mistake, learning too late that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not TH,